Wow, I'm only at grade 1. That's so crazy. What's up with that? That's crazy.
You should be at least grade 2.
I think I should have went first.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, this is Curb and I bring you another standard match. Today we will have myself on the right, going to be playing some Ezel. It's been a while since I picked up this deck. It did get a little bit of indirect support, if you count Selgown as a support card. But let's go ahead and see how Ezel is kind of doing now that it has access to one of the most broken cards in the game. Anyways, on the left, I am going to be going up against what else but Rezael. Seems like everyone is wanting to play this deck these days, especially considering how many videos I have of it on the channel. Anyways, we do see the standard Rezael line here with that grade 1 being written over. I always forget its name because no one ever plays it. Just going to be swinging in at the Vanguard. Going to be taking this first damage because with Ezel, we are still playing the order package, so you do technically want to have 1 CB just in case you see that grade 1 in these first couple turns. Unfortunately, I am not good enough and I did not actually see it, so instead we're just going to have to ride into Bowmains, discarding the promo, which might be a little bit of a misplay. The thing I noticed from playing Ezel again is that you kind of want to keep these things in deck and like just call them out of deck. But I believe I still do have one in my hand. So anyways, running into the Bowmains, going to be getting that Reign Supreme King of Beasts, I think it's what it's called. And then of course we're going to be using the Bowmain skill. We've got Gareth, Griffin the Soul, discarding yet another card, this time a Dindrain, which is a little concerning because I do already, that means 2 Dindrains are out of the deck. And I do definitely need them as a very important combo pieces. Anyways, we're going to activate that Reign Supreme. Just go ahead and just activate Naturia Habitat here. Going to be checking the top 5 cards of the deck. We do see the Order Searcher there, but it is kind of a little bit too late there. What I think is probably the better bet is that Selgown, because Selgown is not a good boy, unfortunately, but he is a very good card. If you don't know why Selgown is not a good boy, then you've clearly never played against a Rezael, where they spam 3 Selgowns and end up with like 15 cards in hand. Anyways, we're going to try and use a little bit of Selgown ourselves, calling down the second copy of the promo there. A little bit risky because that means it is prone to being attacked into. We're just going to swing Van here. 13 going to be a pretty good magic number, getting a heal trigger here, healing down to 0, giving the power to, of course, that promo there. Going to be damage checking and nothing, just an order there. Swing for a very big column because Selgown, don't forget, he gets another 5k, and then of course he was called off the order, so he does have another 5k. So very big 38 there. Just going to be using our Selgown, which, you know, part of me was thinking maybe I just keep it here so I can continue to have like a really big pressure turn, which in hindsight maybe I should have, but at the same time, like, it's very tempting to not to use Selgown. I mean, it's just literally just free advantage. Like, it's very hard to say no to that. But anyways, let's go ahead and swing on over to Rezael's turn. We're going to be riding into grade 2. Going first, I did have a lot of pressure on that first turn, and probably going to have even more on this next upcoming turn. But of course, that does come at the cost of the fact that I have to wait another 2 turns before I can actually start doing anything. But of course, the game plan of Ezel is to kind of just beat down your opponent, get them to really high damage before they even get to grade 3, so that when they are actually at grade 3, you're able to, you know, kind of just finish them off. So anyways, you see the Selgown being called here. Once again, if I'd kept that Selgown here, we actually would have been able to deny the Selgown. But unfortunately, you know, you get a little bit greedy there. And as you see, heal trigger being flipped there, healing down. Of course, you're just going to be using the Selgown there, getting a card. You do hit a defensive heal trigger, but of course, obviously, mine is not going to be activating. But, you know, it is what it is. Anyways, we're going to be here at grade 3. We're going to go ahead and use Ezel's skill here, Soul Blasting 1, since we only have 2 units. Yeah, I still could have done that, even if I didn't have, you know, even if I still did have the Selgown. But we do call the Dindrain the 3rd copy, which I think like I should probably just go for because it's very important. I'm going to be using the Cadogan here to search out my order, which definitely can be a little bit useful in this situation. I do kind of have to think what I want to use. I think I do have a Gradius. If I'd had a Persona Ride, I think things would be a whole lot better, but unfortunately I just do not, at least like, you know, a regular Persona ride, because just even adding an extra 5k is very good. But going to be activating that Gradius there. Another thing I wish I had is a Tayfault, because it just did play in order. Unfortunately, I cannot see them. And we see off of that Persona ride, I do draw to another copy of Reign Supreme, which means I have just 2 more orders, and I just do not need them right now. But, you know, unfortunately, we can't really make that good of a board. I think I do have another promo in my hand, but I definitely want to save it because I'm kind of scared that my opponent might just try and attack into it. Anyways, we swing Van, hitting a critical trigger there, pushing Rezael to 3. We've got this Zindrain, who is all the way up to 28 with that extra offensive trigger. And then we've got the other column that is still swinging for 33 because we did play an order this turn. So that is going to be a 13k booster. So all these are going to be hitting for pretty big numbers, hitting over defensives. So even if we can't push any more damage at this point, we still can probably do a sizable number on the Rezael player's hand, which is kind of something you just have to do when you're playing against Rezael. You kind of do have to just beat them in and try your best to try and just diminish that massive hand that they always seem to have. I think we do see a couple PGs here, but this is a little bit of an awkward guard because it is, as you can see, a 2-card guard. So just the 15k is just going to boost us up to 25, which is not going to be enough to block that 28 there. So it looks like we're going to be guarding with a Biscotti here. Probably just going to proc the skill. Again, it's Energy Blasting the 3, and then of course drawing another card. So definitely a pretty, I don't know, this seems to be a pretty common play where you guard 20k with a trigger and then just like your Energy Cycler. And I don't know why I'm still talking about this. Anyways, guarding 33, going to be guarding with a draw chair and a heal trigger for 35 there. So yeah, that's going to be guarding that. So we're going to be sticking at 3 damage, which is perfectly fine for a Rezael. You definitely probably want at least 2 damage going to your grade 3 turn. Maybe 3 would be better. Just means that you can call a lot better things. It means you can call a line of just like Cellgown plus a grade 2 to make a very nice column there. Anyways, gonna be finally riding into the Rezael, and I'm over here. I've been on grade 2 for 2 turns. It's about time you got to grade 3. Now I can actually start doing things. But of course, using grade 2 skill here, gonna be reborning something. And looks like we're gonna be born what else but Cellgown. Honestly, maybe Rezael needs a choice for trick, but you know, it's not as annoying as, you know, Luard kind of is, because you do actually have to see the first Cellgown and then you just spam it over and over and over again. But anyways, we're going to see the Nobia being used here, checking the top 3 cards of the deck. Just going to be choosing 1 card from among them to call, and then I think the rest go to the bottom of the deck, which is, looks like we're going to get another Nobia there, putting the rest to the bottom of the deck there. So we've got 2 pretty decent columns. The problem is they do actually need to use Soul in order to actually, you know, get the extra power. We see the counter charge being played down here behind the Vanguard in its typical location. And looks like we are just getting ready to swing. We're going to swing that first column, the 23 with the Cellgown. It's just going to be a typical 15k block. But at the same time, you know, I am at 1. So I do kind of have to think about, like, I do need to take at least 1 damage here because I want to be able to, you know, actually use my Vanguard skill and actually multi-attack. But, you know, we still do have to consider, you know, the possibility of triggers. I mean, none of these numbers are really that scary. I guess the scariest thing is just like the 4 attacks here. Looks like we are going to be using the Aerial Sage here to counter charge, which is a little questionable, I think, just because you don't really need to use Aerial Sage every single turn. Like, you have more than enough CV. Like, all you're getting is 2k buff there, and like the chances that you're getting damage denied, it doesn't really matter. You can't really damage deny Rezael, just because the Aerial Sage is always going to be able to be there to counter charge and give you what you need. So we're going to be taking this Rezael attack. Nothing on the drive check. Very defensive cards there, PG as well as that cat there. But we see the Cellgown having come back, swing for another 23k lane. So I'm kind of considering here what I want to do. That other lane is 20 or 30 if he decides to use his skill. So optimally, this would be the easier column to guard. The other option is taking this one and getting a defensive, and then maybe, you know, being able to guard the other one a little bit easier. Of course, using the Selgown yet again, getting another card to hand, and then we've got this last Nobia column here, which is going to be swinging for just the 20, opting to not use the skill, which is just going to be an easy 10k guard there, guarding with that draw trigger. The one thing I was a little worried about was him attacking to my rear guard, because that rear guard is very essential and very important, which is why I kept an extra copy in my hand just in case. One thing that we are missing here, unfortunately, we do not have access to Persona Ride, which is kind of where Ezel tends to falter a lot. Like, if you can't continuously Persona Ride every single turn, you tend to lose out on a lot of steam, and you kind of just don't have, you know, the pressure that you need in order to, like, finish out the game. But inherently, Ezel does technically have quite a few ways to get to Persona Ride. You've got Tayfall, which can search for the Gradius, and then of course you do also have the ability to superior call your Persona Rides and then use the promo to actually just bounce it back to your hand. Unfortunately, I did see none of those things, so we're just gonna have to swing with as much power as we can, maybe deal some damage, maybe take a couple, you know, chip in that massive hand that Rezael still has for some reason. We are at 9 energy here, so I'm almost about to forget to Energy Blast 7, but thankfully at the last moment I remember to Energy Blast 7, and then of course I'm going to draw a card. Is it going to help? Probably not. I mean, we're probably just going to keep this board here. Swing for that 23, of course using the promo skill to give an extra 5k to my front row rear guards. We don't have Persona Ride, but we can still increase our numbers and make these attacks that much more threatening. So we've got 23 on this column. The other column is going to get another 5k to the front row rear guards, which is going to make an extra 10k to them. So he's a 20k base boosted by that 13 is going to make it a 33. Now if we had Persona Ride, these numbers would be a heck of a lot more threatening, because we would have, you know, this 23 would be a 33 and that 33 would be a 43. But you know, it is what it is. Maybe there's an argument for me like saving the Gradius for this turn, but I think that you just kind of do need to keep up the pressure. So we see the cat being maybe thrown down here. It's a little bit of overguarding. The other option is, you know, just to guard with the trigger, which I don't know if we have one for sure. So looks like we are going to be committing that cat there after, you know, just like a little bit of deliberation. Unfortunately, looks like we do not have very much in the drop zone, so we're gonna actually have to go minus insole, which is deeply unfortunate. Maybe just for that we should have used a Nobia skill, but at the same time we didn't have the cat until, you know, the drive check. But you know, it is what it is. So we're gonna swing in this other promo for a nice 33. That is going to be taken, unfortunately, hitting into a defensive there, which kind of sucks, especially since my next 2 attacks are not going to be as strong as like these first 2 attacks, but they still do at least have the extra 10k from the promos, and maybe I can get lucky off of this Ezel. Checking the top 7 cards of the deck, it looks like, unfortunately, I did not really see anything that's really worth calling. We see a bunch of triggers, we see a Dindrain, we see a Cadugan, so I could call the Selgown there, but it doesn't really do anything because, you know, it needs to be boosting, and unfortunately I didn't make a column that can I didn't make a column that could, you know, empty out the back row, I guess is what I'm saying. So unfortunately, very unideal rear guards here. I was definitely looking for a Tayfall, which, you know, I kind of expected to get, considering that we haven't seen a single one in this game, and I've only like checked top 7 like 3 times. But for some reason I just can't get it. Anyways, Vanguard gonna be PG'd. It is a nice 41, so pretty threatening there. At least I still have the Selgown. Gonna be drive checking 1 into a critical trigger, so that's going to be a little bit helpful. I'm gonna stack everything onto that Cadugan because that is going to be swinging for lethal, so I definitely want to you know, push it in as hard as possible. When you're checking the top 2, adding 1, of course use that Selgown, another one goes to the bottom of the deck. We've got this Dindrain, which is only swinging for like 18, I think. So she's not really going to be doing much, but we do have this other column with the Cadugan for 41. We do only see 3 cards in hand, so there is definitely a not impossibility that this could just finish the game here and now. Just with the total amount of power we just amassed into this one column. So that would be a 215k guard here, which they could guard if they had like a 5k double intercept, and then add another trigger. So it's not impossible that they can guard here, but of course we do see a PG. Discarding another PG, interestingly enough, so that is 3 PGs out. So definitely happy about that. I'm not going to be able to finish things this turn, but I can still at least do something. Swing in the last Din Drain in at probably the Novia, because she does represent like a 20k attacker. So we're just going to get rid of her right here now. And we got a sizable hand there. I think I don't have a PG right now, so things are a little bit concerning, especially with this Persona Ride coming on here. But at the same time, I am at 2 damage, so I can theoretically take a decent amount of attacks. I can even take like a critical. I could technically take 2 criticals, although that would be unideal. And of course, Rezael does not have a whole ton of cards in hand, only 3. We can fill up the board, and it looks like we're going to do that, calling an Aerial Sage to boost that Biscotti. Still going to be a nice 23 or 13k attacker, and then of course, being with the Biscotti, that's going to be nice. 23 under Persona Ride 33. Proccing the skill of the Rezael, the Divine skill, putting back 3 critical triggers, which is pretty typical, for Rezael. Usually they proc it on their turn 4. And by turn 4, they usually only have like 3 critical triggers or so, and that they're going to be putting back. So that is a little bit concerning. It also does mean triple drive here, which also is kind of concerning. But like I said, I do have a decent amount of cards in hand. The one thing that I do desperately need is kind of like a PG. That would definitely make this turn much less scary. Going to be bumping up that grade 1 there. In a sense, this is kind of Rezael's possibly final turn, because they don't have a lot more to do. So what I'm thinking about here, this first attack is for 20. I can pretty easily guard that, or I can kind of bank on hitting defensive and maybe try and guard the Vanguard. But what I'm thinking is I do kind of want to take the Vanguard, so I think that I need to guard this first attack here, because that is going to make it easier, so that the only way that he can kill me with his Vanguard is off of a triple crit. So it just kind of does what's the word I'm trying to come up with, cushion me, I guess, against a double critical trigger off the Vanguard swing. It means that I can actually take it and still live, and I think that no matter what he calls, it should be totally fine. I should have more than enough cards to guard everything. So it looks like we're going to be swinging the Biscotti unboosted for another 20k. So the same thing is going through my head. I'm thinking, okay, I want to be able to tank this Vanguard swing. So I'm going to go ahead and guard it here like this. So that I can just go ahead and easily take this Rezael swing. The only way he can kill me here is the, triple crit. Which, he did put 3 crits, so it's not impossible. But I am still protected against a triple crit. So now he does actually do something that is genuinely fucking scary. We see a Rezael being called out, which completely caught me by surprise, because I did not see this card at all during this game. And for maybe you eagle-eyed viewers, you might have noticed that was the first card he discarded for Ride Deck. Which is why I totally did not even notice it in the drop zone. So I'm just going to be taking this Rezael swing. Not too concerned. So we get a critical trigger. Okay, that's fine. I can definitely tank here. Maybe I get to a couple of defensive. Second check is going to be a heal trigger, giving the power to that Rezael. And then third check is going to be a critical trigger, which is the worst possibility. Triple triggers is going to be very annoying, but my third check for damage is going to be over trigger, so it's all good. I was a little concerned about that Rezael, because having to guard yet another attack with drive checks might have just been the end of me, but thankfully, thanks to OT, I do not have to worry about it. If I had a PG in my hand, I think I would be totally fine. You can sing this Rezael, maybe use its drive checks, but if we had used that Rezael, then that would have just been the end of us. Because you have to discard so many cards from hand. It's gonna be taking out the Din Drain. I still do not have another Persona Ride, it looks like. I'm kind of deciding if I want to use the Ezel skill, because I do only have 2 soul left, and I'm deciding whether I want to use that or something else. But what I'm going to decide here is I'm going to use my soul to use the Uplifting Hymn. I somehow managed to find the other Din Drain, so that's all 4 copies out. So now we got 13k boosters. We finally found a Tayfault. We're going to be using its skill, checking the top 5, and getting exactly what I need there. I'm going to be calling the copy of the promo there, just so I can amass as much power as possible. So I definitely have ideal board set up right here. I do have to push 3 damage, but that shouldn't be too hard considering that, you know, there's only 4 cards in hand. 3 of them are triggers, so I just have to, you know, get enough power so that I can really hit over them. Without Persona, it's going to be a little bit difficult, so I think I decide, yeah, I'm going to retire the Tayfault, even though she's a really strong attacker here, but I want to just increase the amount of power that I have on these attacks by having double promo access here. So we're going to swing the first one. Thanks to the 13k Din Drains, this is going to be now hitting 28, which means that that one trigger there that we drove check is going to not be enough to guard it. So we'd have to commit 2 of those triggers, and without any intercepts, we're not going to be able to guard it very efficiently. The one thing I'm worried about here is defensives, and of course we still do have the potential for that 6 damage heal. Anyways, going to be using Din Drain skill, putting the promo in, swinging the other promo, going up to 33, now an extra 10k to my front row rear guards, and then of course Ezel is also going to be at 10k when I use his skill, so that's why I put the dice in the middle. Another really cringe number here, that is another 2-card guard. We'd have to guard with both of those units, or both of those triggers, so we're going to opt to not guard it, and of course not yet another not defensive. So everything is looking very good, going very much according to plan. So I'm going to just be swinging the Vanguard and finally see some PGs there. Unfortunately not where we want to see them. Not getting a whole bunch of really good stuff, but I do find a Tayfault at long last. She's finally come in at the 12th hour. Or is it the 11th? I think it's the 11th hour. Anyways, just going to be calling a Persona Ride because that is just like the next best attacker, unfortunately. A bunch of PGs and triggers and heals and such. Be swinging in the Vanguard, going to be blocked with a 43, a 2 to pass, getting a critical trigger, giving all the effects to my Tayfault, and then second check is going to be a nothing. So yeah, so we've got still some pretty powerful swings here. I'm going to swing the Tayfault in with her skill, the trigger, the extra power, and the boost from Din Drain. We're going to be reaching all the way up to 46 for that 2 damage. Going to be guarding with just the over trigger there, which is definitely going to be enough. And then of course we're going to swing our last attack, the 38. That is not going to be able to be guarded by, you know, a single card, unless that single card is a PG. But as you can see, the last card is a heal trigger, so it's all down to this. Can we get a trigger as our 6 damage? And the answer is no, and that is going to be game for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to do those things, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.